Hey, family. We are back with another episode of Living Single while
Yes,
practicing self-control. How you doing, Pastor Key?
I'm very well. Thank you for asking.
Hey, I am glad. This has been a journey. I have been blessed. I'm Pastor Shanisha, for those who don't know, and this is Pastor Kiana with Pastor Kiana Ministries, and she is going to be talking about living single. She's done a series on it, living
Yes,
single, practicing self-control, and this is going to be episode number 4. So if you
yes.
haven't seen the first 3 episodes, you could just stop right here, and I'm going to encourage you to start with number 1 because it's
Yes,
necessary.
yes, it is.
To give you a recap, but it is nothing like the actual episode where she's
Mm.
talking about her life and her journey and how she's made it to this point with that smile on her face, as she's living single
Yeah,
and self-control. Praise God. So let me just give the people just a simple recap of what we've been talking about in the first 3 episodes. Uh,
yes,
you are 37 right now, and
yes.
you got into a relationship at 17 years old, and you stayed in that very same relationship until you were about 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to give all the juiciness because I really want them to watch episode 1, 2, and 3. But in real life, you gave this same man
Mm-hmm.
17 years of your life, and
Yes.
2 beautiful children came out of the deal. You
Mm-hmm.
gave him 110%, um, and you got back nothing. You got back,
Mm.
no help within the household, no help with the children. And
Yeah.
actually, he cheated. He continued to cheat.
Mm-hmm.
You saw some red flags, but you dismissed the flags.
Right.
And we talked about, in episode 2 and 3, what that looked like to see the red flags and to be serving the Lord at the same time, to love the Lord. And you
Yeah.
said, you're a believer. And this man says he's a believer. And
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, you guys were sleeping together, and
Yeah.
your circles were watching, and you were
Mm-hmm.
saying how God covered you in episode
Yeah.
3. Yet and still, God covered you. He wrapped his
Yeah.
arms around you, and yet and still, in the battle, you were crying sometimes, sleeping in a different room, doing different things because you kind of were ashamed,
Mm-hmm.
before the Lord. And so
Yeah.
you were kind of like living a double life. Your
Mm.
spirit man wanted to do right by God,
Yeah.
but naturally you said, you really wanted to please this man. And so you
Mm.
put 110% in to
Yeah.
please him and disregarded being obedient to God just for him. But at
Mm.
the end of the day, you got nothing out of it,
Nothing.
nothing out the deal.
Nothing out the deal. Great recap.
Mhm, mhm. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yes.
so what we're going to get into now, I want to talk about the last 7 years because now, he has had a child um, outside of the home.
Yes.
And this is a year, right? A year, correct, after you had your baby girl.
Yeah. Yes. Correct.
And you said when you had your baby girl, your baby boy, he seemed happy. Everything was okay. And then, yet and still, he had a child. And the crazy part, you found out through your sister, who found out through your mother, who found out through your brother, who was in that circle.
Correct.
And then you had to go to him and ask him about it. And he had to tell you what happened. And at that point, you said you were going through a lot. Okay, I want to start right there because this is the part that opens up where you become a single woman,
Yes.
right? Okay, tell us just a little bit about that. Get me to, okay, I'm done with him.
Mhm.
Um, and now what? Like, what's your feelings and what made you say, okay, let me just be single?
Yeah, 17 years is a long time. And in that time, you begin to, think about a lot of things, what you're doing, where you want to go, how you're going to do it, what you're going to move. So once that ended, that chapter, there was a relief, there was a releasing that came upon me. And I had made up in my mind, really was like, I'm just done. I was tired of it. And what I did was I just took some time for me. I took time for me, meaning I started writing out things that I wanted to do, where I wanted to be within the next year as a woman and as a mother and as a single mother. I began writing it out, preparing it, and I even went back far as just, telling the Lord, Lord, I want to be new. I want to do something new, but I wanted it to be done within God. I was living outside in myself, not really finding the trueness of who I was and what I am in God. So with that little break, with that break that happened, uh, I was excited to walk in singleness because there was so much holding me back. It was like a weight, and it was a
Wow.
weight that was lifted up once I was able to walk away, and all of the extra it wasn't on me no more. So that leave was so necessary to be able to understand who I was and where I needed to go, what I needed to do to be better for me, far as physically, in health, in mental, because it messes with you, but that freedom that came when that split came, freedom came, peace came, joy came, happiness came. I mean, I could breathe. I could breathe, and it felt good.
It felt good to be able to breathe.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, I know what that feels like. And it sounds like, like sometimes God has to disrupt something, and something that seems so bad and that hurts so much.
Yeah.
But then to say in another breath, look,
Yeah.
that was what I needed. That was
That's
what I needed. It was
yeah.
necessary,
Yes, it
right?
was.
So
Yes.
God was basically drawing you unto himself. Like, come
Hmm.
on back, right?
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
I understand that God is amazing, and sometimes we don't know why some things happen. But when I see the smile on your face now, it's like it had to happen. It
It
had
had
to
to.
happen in order to
Yeah.
get that smile, right?
Yeah. It had to. Yes.
Yeah. So, what type of conversations did you and God have? Once that was done, and there's another child involved. You have children to raise. You don't have a man now. You give him 17 years of your life. You're disobedient to God. He still covered you. What type of conversations did you and the Lord have to get you back on track to where you are right now?
Mm. Ah, that's so good. God is so loving. And when I would sit in my room and my babies would be asleep, that's when I would talk to the Lord. And literally, I just say, Lord, I just love you. I would love on God because he was loving on me. And in his time of loving on me, he was building me and he was letting me know that it was okay and that I did not need to stay in that place because I was always wondering, I was like, what are they going to think? People, I've done this and that, and they're going to ask that. And the Lord let me know that my past it was gone. That had came and it had went. And he started showing me what I needed to do to get where I am today, which is I had to submit fully to God. I had to let go of everything that was not of God. That meaning my desires, that the flesh, I had to literally, and I fought that thing. I fought it. And it's not that I didn't think that it was possible. I just didn't want to. And so I
Mm,
understood what choices was. I understood that it was my choice to be sexually active, but it
okay.
wasn't right. And what it was going to take for me to get that under wraps. And I had to understand that it wasn't wrong that I was feeling this way. that my body, it was in these emotions, it wasn't wrong, but I needed to get some self-control because there was a time for that to come. But that at that time it wasn't. That time it required me to get in God's face. It required me to love on God. It required me to say, you know, recognize who God was in my life, recognize what he is capable of doing. So really, it was really God showing me, um, you know, that doesn't matter, daughter. He talked to me, he rocked me. I actually felt it. And some people are like, how? But if you really had that communication and connection with God, you feel it. I felt his presence. And I mean, literally, I was rocking like a baby in his arms. And those things I needed. And he heard me. And some people don't think that that they're able to feel that, but you are. You're able to feel that when you submit to God and you be raw with God. I was raw with God. And you know, he wasn't really interested in me keep repeating, you know, saying, God, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I said, I'm sorry. I had to turn from that stuff. And he let me know that. I forgive you. I forgive you, daughter, but I need you to turn. And I'm gonna help you with it. He didn't leave me out. He let me know. I'm gonna help you through this because you can get through it.
Hey, hey, he said he rocked me.
Yeah, he rocked
Woo!
me. Yeah, he did.
Amen. I like that. I like that. So you said your conversations were raw.
Mm-hmm.
I do understand there's a people out here that are so ashamed, right? That when they get ready to go to God, they really don't want to go to him because they feel unworthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when they start to talk to him, it's more like in a ashamed type of way, where they want to honor him so much, they want to reverence him so much. How did you get to be raw? Like, what does raw look like? Like, you can still, reverence God and be raw and real, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And I feel like it's almost a requirement that you be raw because he sees you.
Mm-hmm.
He sees you clearly. He knows who you are. So
Yes.
whatever mindset you have and
Yeah.
whatever you could think to ask him, it has to happen, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So you said that it is required. Is it a requirement that we be raw with our Father? Because we don't need to lie to him because he's all knowing. He knows everything. He knew it already before we even tapped into it. And when we realize that God is already all knowing, this gives us the ability to say, I'm going to be honest and I'm going to be raw. And being raw means being truthful, being honest with you. And when you're honest with you, you can be honest with God because nothing is by surprise to God. So I already knew that God already knew that this was happening. And I knew that God was more interested in saying, okay, well, what are you going to do for now? What are you going to do? Are you going to turn from or are you going to continue in it? And so being raw with God is so necessary because when you can be raw with God, you can be, that means you're being true to you. You know, that means that you can be honest. And God, he really loves when we can come and say, God, you know, I did that. I was that, you know, there's no condemnation in God. There's no shame. There's nothing for us to be ashamed from. We need to turn from it. We need to turn from it. And I think that's what a lot of people do. You know, we go before God and there's this shame. God don't want us to come before him with shame. He wants us to come and say, Lord, forgive me. God, I've done this, but I need you to help me. And I think a lot of people think that they can come from stuff on their own strength, their own might.
Mm,
And you can't come from it. You cannot be having no sexual desire. You can't beat that on you. You can't. You ain't gonna win. I don't care how many I tried it. I don't care how many times. I ain't gonna do it. I ain't gonna do it. And I ain't studying the word. I ain't praying. I ain't fasting. I ain't doing nothing to crucify, to keep my mind, you know. So when you become new in Christ, he said the renewing of your mind. I had to renew that mind. I had to get in God and renew. Meaning, and that's a daily thing. That's a day. I understand what renewing because people say, yeah, you know, I renew daily. I'm like, what? But you got to renew that mind daily. And that is what I started doing when that departure came. I had to renew my mind. I had to think differently. I had to see things differently.
Hey, hey, and you had to want to do things differently, right? For something else to happen,
That's key. Yeah.
something better to happen.
Yes.
Hey, and so many times we say, no, I have not been delivered from it. But the biggest thing about sin, nobody does a sin that they don't like to do. If I didn't like to have sex, I just wouldn't do it.
Hmm. Yeah.
And if you told me don't do it, I'd be like, okay.
Hmm.
But most times, like all the time, you're gonna find that the sins that you have in your personal life are things that you love. And
Yes.
so you find that a lot of people don't want to change their mind about it. I know I love this thing and I
Yeah.
don't want to give it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got to pause right there because that's a big part of it. If you know you are being disobedient to your father
Yeah.
and you want that relationship
Yeah.
and you know he wants you to be obedient for your own good,
Yeah.
right? Because he wants what's best for you, then
Yes.
you have to change your mind. You have to
Mhm.
say, okay, I want what he wants. In other words, now you become inside the will of the Father. You say, Lord, I
Mhm.
want to do your will, not
Yeah.
my will, because
Yep.
my will says I want to have sex,
Yep.
but your will says, baby girl, wait.
Mhm.
So I gotta wait. So I'm gonna need you to help me with that.
Mhm.
Now, listen, that part, that changing of the mind, and then it's not to say that you're not gonna wake up the next day
Mhm.
and think the same thing you thought yesterday and have
Mhm.
to renew that mind. Say, Lord,
Yep.
you're going to help me today.
Mhm.
You know, my hormones are raging.
Yep.
I'm out of
That's
control.
right.
There's temptation at the door, knocking on the door. I
Yep.
need you to help me.
Mhm.
That is a powerful thing. That is
Yes, it
something
is.
that people need to know. We all wrestle with something, and we
Yes.
wrestle within ourselves,
That's right.
and God is standing there waiting, like,
Mhm.
ask me. I got
Yep.
you.
Yep.
Right? Do you date?
At this moment,
Hmm.
present, no, I don't date. I'm not dating.
Okay. Did you date when you first had that breakup, that big 17-year breakup? Afterwards, you said you were talking to the Lord and you were trying to figure out how to practice self-control. Did you date in that time?
I did. I
And what
did.
that looked like?
Um,
Was it a struggle?
it was a struggle. It was a struggle. It wasn't. I wouldn't advise it. I wouldn't advise it. Not, because I wasn't ready for it.
Mm. How did you know that you wasn't ready for it?
What I wanted to be, um, meaning I wanted to be strong enough to reject wasn't what was not right. And
Mm.
when it was presented to me, um, I didn't I didn't stop it. I didn't stop it. The only way, like, and the only reason why I stopped because we weren't in the right setting. So that's really what kind of saved it, and if I was asked, I would say no, 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 I wanted to be strong enough to be able to say, if it was hit me like that, I want to say no, I ain't going that way. But why I can I started dating prematurely. I went in
Mm.
too soon. And sometimes we go in too soon, thinking that we have established and gotten where we needed to be able to face those things. And when it faces you, you find out the truth about you.
Mm. Okay. All right. So from what I'm hearing, you put yourself in a situation too soon where you wanted to be strong enough, but you were not at the time.
That's right.
So that is oftentimes when it goes through your mind, you think like, this is never gonna be better, right? This is not gonna get better, man. I can't practice self-control. I ask God to help me, but then you ask God to help you, but then you put yourself in that situation prematurely. You say,
Yep.
okay, I'm do this dating thing. This gentleman likes me. I like him. And then all I have to do is I can engage him. And then when he starts to ask for sex, I'll disengage. But then realizing I wasn't ready. It's too soon. So now what?
We went on. I had conversation. Because of who he was, I was able to be open with him and truthful about where I was and about what I was doing. So when I said it to him, I was open to him because I really liked him. And what I liked about him was his relationship. He had different things, his relationship with God. He respected that, although sometimes his actions were different. And so eventually, that began to draw me away. I don't need two weak people. I can't be weak and you be weak. That ain't gonna work. We have to have some type of strength. So we begin to just draw away from each other.
Okay. Draw away. Oh my Lord. Did that hurt you in any way? Or was it okay?
In this relationship, it did. Yeah.
So you've been through a little something, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So what, I'm not sure if we're gonna have time to ask you though, what would it take for you to date right now?
He must be anchored in the Lord, meaning he must be following God. God must be first in his life. And I'm not going to compromise what God said. And he has to be on that same page. He's not going to compromise the word of God. What God said it is, and then we can move forward.
All right. So when you date, right? At this point, do you choose not to date, or are you just waiting for the right guy, or where are you at with what's going on in your life right now?
I choose not to date. I choose not to date. I choose to wait. I choose to let the Lord do whatever it is that he wants to do in that department. I want to be the example of a woman who stands still and wait on God, and let that man, he that findeth a wife, and make sure that I am right in right standing for when he comes.
So with that being said, you are single, living single on purpose,
On purpose.
intentionally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen. So we're gonna have to get to the smile. The smile is like, I'm enjoying my life.
Yeah.
I am enjoying where God has me. At what point would you say that you were that God dealt with you so much so that you know that you can practice self-control? Is it keeping men away? Is it doing just doing what God say do, or is it like something that you just wanted to do, you prayed about? How does that look? Like what, how do you function now just practicing self-control, like you're confident in it, you're confident, whereas one time it was premature, you thought you could do it and you couldn't.
Yeah.
So what has changed to make it solid where you could just get up every day and walk and practice self-control?
I would contribute that to my prayer life. Most times I took myself out of it. I took my hands off of it. And I really truly said to God that I wanted what he had for me. Um, and so in that, I knew that I wasn't praying. I can't get away from it. I have to be honest. Prayer is really what brought me to having a smile, because I am content with my father. I am content with my life, meaning that as long as I got God, I'm excited. I desire a husband, but I desire one that is for God, that is after God, that is chasing God as much as I'm chasing him, as I'm chasing God. And then, you know, when I get up, I get up and I pray. I'm praying while I'm in the car. I'm constantly praying because um it's necessary, because the flesh rises, and so like I said, I understand that my mind and that the flesh wants, I understand that. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to do that.
Mm.
But what makes it so easy for me to say, hey, get up, prayer, and give. And I just thank God. I thank God for his strength. I thank God. And I study his word. Whew, I study that word because it reminds me. And some people may think this is strange. I come to the point where I understand that God can take me out of here. I don't want to be taken out of here because of my desires wanting to come at the wrong time and wanting to act. So that has brought me to a state of being humble and being content until God releases. I put that like that. I put
Okay.
that like that.
I like the way you put it. I like the way you put it. It's some things. So I hear it in my mind when I interpret what you say. I hear a list of things that we can do to practice self-control and to make sure that we're giving ourselves the best medicine to be able to get up and live our daily lives, right?
Absolutely.
How confident are you with your beauty, your brains, your makeup, how you look? How confident are you with that?
Oh, I'm 1,000, a trillion percent confident. Yeah, yeah. I'm very confident. Very.
Where were you always like that?
I was always confident. Always. I never had a problem with that.
Okay. Do you think uh, men or a man sees you for who you are? Do you think men normally see you for who you are? Or you think they don't get you? Like, do you feel like, when you get into the presence of men who try to talk to you, that they won't see your value?
I have encountered that. Yes.
Mm.
I have encountered that. Yes.
And more than an encounter, have you actually dealt with that with a man?
I have
Hmm.
dealt with it.
Yeah,
Um,
that.
it's not good. That's not a good, that's not a good thing to stay in.
Mhm. And why is that?
Uh, because you would begin to compromise who you are. You will begin to belittle your standards in some form. You will begin to do that, and it's not good, because then as you're compromising yourself, as just like as Kiana, if I belittled myself, I wouldn't even be where I am today. If I begin to compromise the things that were said about me, which is what God says about me and what I believe to be true, then I would not be where I am. I would never be starting. I'm just starting. And so I never deal with a man that cannot come to my level. And meaning my level, you got to be confident in who you are, because that'll mess you up as a person. It'll mess with your mind. The enemy begins to speak to you and let you, make you believe the lies that are untold, that are untrue, not by God. So I would
Mm.
never be in a relationship like that. I've encountered it and I tried to deal with it. but it was very unhealthy because my spirit wouldn't allow me to be like that. If my spirit wouldn't allow it, it would fight it, and I would get agitated, and I'm like, so you got to get from that.
I get it. A man, sometimes he just it's like he's sweeping through the city. Every woman is just a woman.
Yeah.
They just use them for what they want to use them for. And a woman with a standard kind of sticks out. A woman that has boundaries.
Right.
A woman that doesn't need to be told by a man that she's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a beauty all by itself.
Yes, it is.
Knowing that God said you are uniquely, fearfully, and wonderfully made. That's something that can drop in your spirit if you let it.
If you let it.
If you go day to day hearing the same thing from the same man, you wake up one day and you don't know who you are because you let what he said seep in, creep in, and stay around,
Yes.
So, and you dived into him and you told him how wonderful he is. And he ain't no good.
You're right on it. That's right. Yeah, come on.
He ain't no good. But we gotta stop this episode because I know we don't want them too long, about a half hour.
Right. That's right.
And I don't even know what we're gonna call this episode right here. But I will say we'll reiterate it in episode 5, the steps that it takes to practice self-control while you're living single. Is there any last words you want to say for the people while we wrap this one up?
Love you much, family, and we're excited to give y'all the next episode.
Hey.